Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio and your host, Joanne McCall. This show is dedicated to helping you learn to effectively market and publicize you and your business. Being proactive with these ideas will help you to attract more visibility and attention, which will ultimately result in more clients and customers. And now here is your host on Blog Talk Radio, Joanne McCall.
Hello, and welcome to Your Brand on Blog Talk Radio. We've got a great show lined up for you today. I'm Joanne McCall, and Your Brand is all about you. It's all about you, and it's all about your business. It's about creating increased visibility, increased credibility, and ultimately more clients and customers. Now, we often focus on books here. It's not everything we do, but it's a big piece of what we do because a book can open all kinds of doors for you. Now, I actually come from a background in broadcasting, so I understand media. And then I got into book publicity because, well, quite frankly, I wanted to start my own company. I wanted to be a little bit more in charge of my own destiny. And I love books. I love authors, the publishing industry. I mean, everything about it has just been really exciting for me. So traditionally, when someone wanted to publish a book, what they would do is they would find an agent. They would get a book proposal together. The agent would shop it around to publishers. They'd hopefully get a publishing deal, and they'd be on their way to fame and riches, right? Well, traditionally, that's what's happened, and it's still going on, and it's still a very viable way to go. But as we look out into the horizon, and as we see the trends coming towards us, and with the change in technology, you can produce your own book now. You can start your own publishing company, and if you have a platform, and hopefully you're working on building your platform, which just basically means a way to sell the book, then you can do it yourself, and you can bypass that whole piece of it, and also, quite frankly, you probably make more money at it. So to that end, and our discussion today is going to center on that, and I have a wonderful guest joining us today. Matthew Chan is the CEO of Ascend Beyond Publishing and the author of several business books, manuals, and audio programs. They include the TurnKey Publisher, that's a series, also the TurnKey Investor Series, and the Intrepid Way. Through his direct tell-it-like-it-is approach, Matthew teaches and coaches CEOs, entrepreneurs, and high achievers how to supercharge their business credentials, increase their stature, and leapfrog competitors using the independent publisher platform. And we're going to focus on that today and how he did it. Now, Matthew is an advocate of building customer trust through credibility marketing and educational marketing. His publishing expertise includes book publishing, audio publishing, CEO publishing, and accelerated publishing. I'm so excited to have him here today. His background includes an MBA from Webster University. So let me welcome you to the show, Matthew.
How are you, Joanne?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I was looking forward to this show.
Me too. We met in New York earlier this year, and I think we hit it off right from the beginning. I just really appreciated how you are able, you know exactly what you want, and you're very good about going about and getting it.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome, and so I'm just delighted to have you on the show today. So this is a big question I'm going to start off with, Matthew, but let's just launch into it. How did you get started writing, and then how did you begin your publishing company?
For many years, I told people that I had this idea that I wanted to write a book back in 2002, and that was a story that I told, but that's what I truly believed. But when I launched the TurnKey Publisher series, I really wanted to reflect, where did it all come from? And really, I did a lot of writing, I'm sure you can relate to this. You did some writing in college, and when I moved into the business world, I was always put in a managerial capacity, but I never had a secretary, so I had to do all my own writing. So that whole writing thing has been an evolution. And that's really how it started. And when I had got the idea that I wanted to write a book, there was a bit of a transition, but it was still the same style of writing that I use today.
And so when you decided you were going to start writing your own books, did you have a moment there or a period of time there where you considered the traditional publishing route? And if so, what changed your mind?
Like everybody else, I considered it briefly, but anybody that knows me knows that I kind of like to research things and stay kind of low-key and watch and observe. And what I really found out in my research was that my likelihood of being rejected was going to be very, very high. So I dismissed that idea very quickly because, I don't take rejection well, and my feelings get hurt easy.
But, a lot of people going into it, they think they're going to have the next mega bestseller right away. So, I commend you for having a realistic look because you did the research, correct?
Yes, and I guess I try to stay grounded, and so I have a practical view of the world. I mean, I knew I was an unknown. I didn't have a track record. Didn't mean that I couldn't do it, but, from an outsider looking towards my direction, I probably didn't look all that attractive. And so I just said, you know what, I don't need to waste years, and, I don't need to waste energy. I said, I'm just going to just bypass that entirely.
Well, and what you've come up with, I've got a couple of your books. You just graciously, out of the blue, I get this package in the mail, and it's Judith Matthews' books, and it just completely blew me away. And I thought, first of all, what a nice gift and how generous that was of you. And also, it really, that sealed the deal. I thought, I got to have him on the show because these books really go into the nuts and bolts of how to do this. And when you're just starting out, there's so much to figure out, and you've already done the research, right? So we can all benefit from that.
Yes, that's correct. And there are a lot of other great books out in the marketplace, but one of the things that I noticed was a lot of it was a little bit outdated. They didn't incorporate the latest technologies, and they didn't really take into consideration the beginning entrepreneur, perhaps people who didn't have that much money and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I could add to the conversation.
Well, most definitely, and I like what you brought up about having a kind of a shoestring budget because, let's face it, even though you can do these things fairly inexpensively, it still has to have a budget. And, in my work doing this show and in consulting with people, what I try to do is help people not make really expensive mistakes before they make them. You know what I mean? And that is what I see you doing in your book. So let's talk about some specifics here. So which one did you decide to work on first, the publishing?
I worked on The Intrepid Way first. That was an idea I had. It was a book about entrepreneurship and personal freedom. And that was back in 2002 when I actually thought about it, but I didn't get serious on it until about 2003.
Okay, and then came the TurnKey Publishing?
The TurnKey Investor Series, and actually the TurnKey Publisher was actually the latest one I launched. It was meant to be launched last year, but with the real estate market the way it was, there were some fires I had to deal with, so it get postponed till this year. And I really didn't feel qualified to launch the TurnKey Publisher Series any sooner. I mean, you can't write about publishing unless you've done quite a few titles. And by the time I launched TurnKey Publisher this year, I felt I had already published some 20-some titles. So I felt like I'm comfortable talking about it at that point in time versus on my very first book and so forth.
Right. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this show. We've got coaches and we've got speakers and we've got people in a variety of industries who really know their stuff, they know their information, and they have a lot that they can share with other people. So having a book to sell in the back of the room or sell to clients or whatever is a very viable way to go. So how do they get started? What's your first recommendation?
My first recommendation is based on what you said. I think people have to get very, very clear that they want to do it. And I think I've run into a lot of people myself, and a lot of people say they want to do it, but they're not truly committed. And that's a big concern of mine because if you're not truly committed, then you got all kinds of excuses and things like that. And they let the money thing stop them, and, I don't have the time. I'm sure you've heard all this before, Joanne.
Oh, many times.
Yeah, time and money are the two things. But yet, when you look around, there's people that make the time and money for their vacations, their big screen TVs, and so that's what I would say. Saying is one thing, but do you really have it in your heart to want to do it?
Okay, so then when you sat down to start writing, did you set up a system where you wrote every morning for 3 hours, or what? How did you do it?
That's a great question, Joanne. I have to tell you, the way I went about it was very unglamorous. You have to understand, back then I didn't write a book, so I didn't know what it was like to write it from beginning to end. So in my mind, I said, okay, it's too daunting to write a book. So I just wrote a whole bunch of articles. that was related to it, but I didn't even try to put it in order. And so when I kept writing and writing all these different articles, I literally sat out on the floor and I laid all these articles all over the carpet, if you can imagine me crawling on the floors. And then so here I am. So I got all these unrelated articles, and little by little I would stack them on top of each other based on a few, like a half a dozen related topics. And that's really how that writing process happened, because I didn't feel like I could write a book, but I could write little articles.